product's total life cycle, production, use, and recycling, that matters in determining its environmental impact. A typical gasoline-powered car consumes 3 times more resources and produces 15 to 20 times more air pollution than a typical electric car.
Awesome, thank you. Where would you say the conclusion for this is?
So I initially got this one wrong, and then I figured out why. So I think it's basically that first sentence, that Baumgartner's comparison of the environmental hazards of gasoline-powered cars with those of electric is misleading.
Awesome. What did you originally say that it was?
I originally thought it was actually that second part. And then I figured out, I think part of the successes that I found with the conclusions is like, if I can continue that sentence with a because and then an answer in the paragraph, then that's where I messed up. And so that's where I messed up on that one.
No, I'm so glad you said that, because I was literally just telling Kamani that I love the because test. It never fails you. If you do it right, it never fails you. You can always find what supports what. And if you know that, then you always know what the conclusion is, especially when you have things like subsidiary conclusions, because then it gets really confusing if you don't know what is giving support to what.
Yeah, the subsidiary conclusions are definitely a jerk to deal with.
Jasmine, does this make more sense to you now, or do we need to help explain this in a different way?
It makes sense.
I think one thing too is, don't be afraid. The most common structure, which if you can draw this as I say it, Karshna, is that they give you like some type of background information or some type of opinion of others. And then our conclusion is rejecting it, and then we offer support for it. The second most common is for everything to be building up to the conclusion at the end. But that third one is when it's the first sentence. So if you read through a stimulus and you're not quite sure where the conclusion is at, don't be afraid to go back and look at that first sentence, because sometimes like you miss it because it's the first sentence, so we don't know yet too. And that helps at all.
This was like a terrible way to draw it. I didn't know how else to draw it.
I couldn't see it. Were you drawing it?
I literally said conclusion support.
Oh, okay. I don't see. Oh, there.
Right in the middle of the page.
My video is in it. Yeah, I wasn't looking at that. Okay, cool. So anyways, yes. So that's just background of most of like the one that we just did. I think the one that we just did, like they should not be, like how that was like you know, we said something, we rejected it, and then we offered support for why they should not be.
That's the one that I see the most.
The most common, like that's like that. The second most common is like we're building up and it's like the last sentence. And then third is it's the first sentence. So I guess this is a long way to say that the conclusion can be anywhere, but really kind of look for those 3 structures and it will really help you, especially when you get to the end and you're like, I don't know what the conclusion was. It probably was the first sentence.
Yeah, but like be really careful not to fall into the pattern of like the conclusion is the last sentence, because it most likely isn't. At least on the LSAT, like it really is.
No, it really not a majority of the time.
Okay, knowing this is a conclusion now, what would you say the answer is, Jasmine?
For that, I said it was D, but it's not the right answer. But then I picked A, and then I looked up deceptive, and it said misleading. So that's when I knew it was the answer. So A.
Yep. Awesome.
I didn't actually know because I didn't know what the word meant, I didn't pick it. So that was part of my fault.
That's a huge problem on the LSAT. You're gonna have to start filling blanks and using context clues. And that's really difficult. Sometimes the best way to deal with that is starting to read things that might be more difficult. I started reading New York Times articles just because it helped me. And I had to start filling in context clues based off things I was reading and start understanding words that I didn't know before. So maybe that's something you could do too to help you.
One thing too is get a big step for me on the LSAT is if you don't know what a word is, that doesn't mean it's wrong. And if I don't know something, I would ignore it all the time. But if I can cross off the other 4 answer choices, even if I don't know that word, go with it to give yourself a chance. And like getting comfortable with that is really scary because you know, like I don't know it, I don't want to choose it. But oftentimes it's if I know the other 4 are wrong, at least trust myself to know that those 4 are wrong.
I
I have
think really, I'm
question.
sorry, go on.
Sorry. For number 12, so I ended up, so once I figured out like what I got wrong and why I got it wrong, I then was going back and forth between A and C. Because they're so similar to each other. How do you know that A is ultimately the 100% the answer that we're looking for versus C?
Let's see. I need to read this again just because it's a stimulus and I don't remember everything, but Baumgartner's comparison of the environmental hazards of gasoline-powered cars with those of electric cars is misleading. He examines only production of the cars, whereas it is the product's total life cycle, production, use, and recycling that matters in determining its environmental impact. A typical gasoline-powered car consumes 3 times more resources and produces 15 to 20 times more air pollution than a typical electric car. A says he makes a deceptive comparison between the environmental hazards of gasoline powered and electric cars, and C says he uses inaccurate data in his comparison. We don't really know that the data is inaccurate, and that's what throws me off for C.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, there's
Actually,
nothing in there to suggest that it's inaccurate. And you
yeah,
have to be really, really careful not to fill in your own assumptions there because the LSAT will prey on that.
yeah. Okay, I see it now. Yeah, as soon as you said it out loud, I was like, oh, got it. Okay.
Cool. Any more questions about 12? Everyone good then? Awesome.